Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So today we are going to be talking about the buff, the tune-up that Gorr the God Butcher is receiving. And as many of you know, I actually have quite a lot of footage of Gorr on my channel already, which is one of the reasons why in this video I'm not going to be showing his pre-buff damage. What you do need to know is that in fairly straightforward fights he does have access to great deal of damage as is. However, it does fall off immediately as the fight's becoming more difficult. And in order to currently benefit from his Undermine ability, which basically bypasses auto blocks and penny parkers and things like that, you basically need him at Sig 200, and even then it is quite tricky. So those were also the bigger problems facing Gorr, in a sense that his shadow magic buffs were falling off too quickly, and it was too big of an undertaking to try and maintain his shadow magic buffs or even try and increase them, whilst you're also trying to inflict debuffs to the opponent, because you can't do both simultaneously. And the other problem is that also his Undermine just didn't necessarily last long enough for it to be viable in every situation where it could potentially be needed, especially if he was anything less than max sig, because at max sig you get 9 seconds, and basically with that 9-second time you had to land a combo with a light finisher or throw a special 3. So the details of his buff are as follows: increase the base shadow magic buff duration from 20 to 30 seconds. And that is a huge increase. Extra 10 seconds in buff duration are really noticeable, and how completely transformed the comfort level Gorr may have during a fight. Each unique shadow magic buff now has a max stack limit of 3 each. Now that is a stupid change. I can kind of understand why they did it, because with the 30-second duration, you can kind of keep climbing up the amount of shadow magic buffs you get pretty much infinitely. And yeah, at the same time, I initially was much more worried about the stack limit than I am right now, if that makes sense. Because after testing, I realized that it doesn't really interfere with anything at all Gorr might be used for. And the way I see it is kind of future-proofing him from being able to, level 3 kind of like abyss length fights extremely quickly with increasingly more and more powerful special 3s. I think with 3 in 98% of the fights, that's where you would end up anyways, or even less than that. Also, increase the Undermine buff duration from max 9 seconds to max 16 seconds also is a massive increase. And most importantly, now even a Sig 20 Gorr is going to be more viable with that piece of utility than he was before buff, because you start off with a bare minimum of 10 seconds. So that means that now I can openly and wholeheartedly recommend ranking up Sig 20 Gorrs, for instance, because previously he did not need his awakened ability for offense, not much anyways, for defense, sorry, but he definitely wanted to be high sig for offense. And in Cosmic class, it's kind of recommend ranking up Gorr and giving him a bunch of sig stones if you want to get the best out of him. So now, the fact that he will be definitely workable at a lower sig level is a great change. So I do have a bunch of gameplay for you guys, and this is already in the beta server. The real reason why I don't have pre-buff gameplay is because my Gorr was actually stuck in Alliance War pretty much the entire time I could have had time to record some gameplay. But I still could use the beta server, obviously, and this is the buffed Gorr now. So as you can see, those shadow magic buffs now seem to last an absurdly long time. And the rotation with him, for most part, I believe in most of the fights, will be something as I'm doing right now. You build up to a point where you have 2 buffs of each, and then you just do mediums or medium combos in order to get to your level 3. And as you can see, I still have 2 of each of my buffs there, and at this point I'm going to drop a level 3, which is going to do substantial amount of damage. And now I just need to drop a heavy attack, and another level 3 is going to finish off this fight. And need I remind you, this is going to be a finish of a 500 plus health pool extremely easily with this rank 4 Gorr here, and we're going to take a look at the fight duration as well. Obviously, this isn't necessarily the fight duration that we're going to be experiencing most of the time, but we managed to get it done in 1 minute and 6 seconds. The fact that we can do this in 1 minute and 6 seconds immediately also improves his usability in Battlegrounds, in Alliance Wars, and a bunch of other content. So let's move to the next fight. And now I have a bit of a different goal. Now I want to get Captain Marvel down to 50% health, because 50% of 550k would work out something in the region of 275k, which is more health than virtually anything you would potentially want to kill in Battlegrounds. Means if I can level 3 this Captain Marvel down to 50%, anything that you would use Gorr against in Battlegrounds would die with this special. So as you can see here, I have built up 30 plus 40 at this point buffs, and that's actually going to turn out to be an overkill, which is good to know because that gives us a bit more room and leeway as well. So here we can see that this level 3 with full animation playing out took Captain Marvel Classic down to 42% health. So we basically did about 300k plus in total fight damage, which tells us that we do not even need as many debuffs on the opponent. Probably as long as we get about 10, 11, maybe 12 debuffs of each variety, that level 3 will kill everything in Battlegrounds. Now you guys can't see that, but I can take a look at the fight duration, and the fight ends on a timer here at 101 from the start where I started recording, and the fight starts here at about 4 seconds, so it's about 57 seconds, considering I could have thrown about 1 or 2 less mediums at the end. I would say that with this change, Gorr will likely is going to be quite comfortably capable of killing pretty much anything in Battlegrounds inside of 60 seconds, definitely, potentially 50 seconds. Which kind of makes him very similar in a sense to, let's say, Galen, except of burst of damage, he has a massive level 3 damage. And now we're going to take a look at a few more fights and a few more examples here. In this fight matchup, I will be trying a bit different rotation, which obviously is one of the purposes of Gorr, because currently on live servers, one of the bigger problems with Gorr is that you kind of have to go to level 3 rotation if you want to, you know, feel like he's a good champion, because anything but that level 3 rotation, it's just not really sustainable. The rest of his special attacks at the moment kind of feels meaningless on live servers, and I wanted to test whether that is still the case here. And here we can see that I built up to basically 7 shadow magic buffs. I placed up a couple of debuffs, but in order to get those furies, and now with 4 furies, obviously the goal is ideally to try and get to 8, and thus give Gorr a bit of a different dimension where his hit damage obviously is more potent, but also his debuff damage does well enough in order to finish out these fights. And again, pay attention here, 60 hits in, we have dealt 275k, so means pretty much everything would have died as long as we can maintain, you know, certain levels of aggression. And here I just randomly dropped my level 1. It's probably I shouldn't even have done that. There was no great reason to do so. But with those 8 Furies, obviously the damage over time numbers are quite crazy. And this is not necessarily as fast as level 3, especially in longer fights. But this might be exactly what you want and / need to do in some shorter form content, because here you will not have to sit through level 3 animation. And again, you can kind of cut this time more or less in half, or at the very least, instead of this being a 550k healthful fight, I can rewind this fight and see at which point Winter Soldier was, let's say, at 55%. which is where pretty much everything would have died, and that is also inside a minute. And that is one of the greatest things, because now Gorr has an option whether you want to go for level 3 or level 2s, and you can still finish these fights out inside a minute, because this is about, you know, your Alliance war fight, your Alliance quest fight, or your Battlegrounds ranked fight. In other words, vast majority of the fights where you care about the duration of these fights. And now moving to next clips, obviously, I'm going to reiterate and make the same base point here against the Deadpool dummy, where we're going to see that I'm just going to go in this first one. I'm going to build up to my level 3, this one is a level 2 rotation, and we're going to see that this one is going to finish inside a minute as well. So here that level 1, you know, was already overkill at this point, and this one was 50 seconds. Then I'm going to try out another rotation against Deadpool, which is, again, more or less that Battlegrounds or Alliance War length type of fight. So here, in this case, I drop my level 2. And then I just dropped my level 1 in block, which was, you know, a bit of a risky mistake, which isn't perfect or ideal. This was 49 seconds. And then in the next case where I don't do that, where I go for level 3 in order to finish off this fight, because obviously this level 3 will be enough to finish pretty much whatever of a similar health pool. It's 51 seconds. So, in a fight where you can relatively freely build yourself up to level 3 or level 2 without much stopping you in terms of, you know, specific abilities to work around, Gorr can kind of work like a pseudo-nuke champion as well, obviously, as a defender. Here is my personal treat for you guys. I was debating whether to upload this as a separate video. I still might, I don't know. But this is synergized Gorr now. This is going to be Gorr with his synergies active. And I am using like Mr. Fantastic here, I think OG Thor, and a handful of others. Basically increasing his fury duration, giving him ability to slightly pause his buffs for a moment as well. And I want you guys to watch this fight in its entirety, because remember, this is 3.3 million health. So this is the 3.3 million health, and since vast majority of this video was about, you know, practical length fights, practical rotations without any synergies at all, I feel like I have kind of deserved the opportunity to show you guys what a roided out Gorr can do. And keep in mind, this is still without Liquid Courage double edge masteries, which by the way he is capable of running with the specific setups, and this is also without any boosts at all whatsoever. I don't even have deep wounds on here. This is a very, very basic setup. Here for these fights, a bit of a trick is to utilize your power gain to drop my level 2 in opponent's block, and I unfortunately in this fight the second level 2 didn't quite hit the block, but it's fine. But we're gonna see something quite interesting in the future here. So we can already see that Star-Lord's health is kind of starting to disappear as we are building up our Fury buffs. At this point, we are at 8 Fury buffs. We have, you know, decent amount of debuffs. They are going to drop off a bit for a moment there. So here we're going to apply some more. And we can see that those Shadow Magic buffs now, after the are lasting significantly longer. That is partially because of Mr. Fantastic synergy, but obviously the effect of those extra 10 seconds in the duration cannot be understated. And look at Star-Lord's health, like, very, very carefully, because this fight is not going to be as long as you guys think it is. So here I'm going for another level 2, and we have like over 10 buffs of each. Obviously, if I would be able to throw level 3s in this fight, I suspect this fight would be pretty much over. But since we do need to work around that pesky 50k damage cap in Labyrinth, this is the second best thing, in my opinion. Unfortunately, here we can see that majority of my buffs have fallen off. However, at this point, they are significantly more potent. And I will try here to get more of my Shadow Magic buffs, you know, reactivated. You occasionally do still have to do it, despite the increase in attack. And here getting hit in the face was honestly quite helpful at this point. But we have built up to 20 Furies, to a point where each and every single one of the damaging debuffs that I do place on the Star-Lord is doing quite a sizable, ridiculous amount of damage. And again, we can definitely see it on Star-Lord's health bar, where at the moment I have 18 of each buffs, or 16, but I do have 24 Furies now. And his health is definitely not doing so well. His health is 100% not doing too great here. It's not the prettiest fight. I do make a couple of mistakes towards the end, but at this point I just don't need to do anything. So if we take a look at the fight stats here, it was 3 minutes and 23 seconds and 178 hits. So sub 200 hits. Gorr did take care of that. And here I have another one, which we're going to do well enough. Which the fight duration turns out as 3 minutes and 33 with 172 hits. Here I utilize a bit different strategy, trying to shoot my level 2s in 2 hits block. But also, in slightly shorter fights, we can see how he is going to do against Electro, because obviously here the health bar situation is going to be even more interesting. So again, as a standard start move, we're going to be building up to 2 sets at the very least of each Shadow Magic buff, and then we're going to start stacking our buffs on Electra. We will throw the first level 3 in order to basically get a set of all the Shadow Magic buffs and pause them for a bit, giving us like a very good room or space for a run up and basically ability to inflict even more of these buffs. So we are throwing our level 3. Keep in mind, Electra is at what, 93% health here. Sweet, not bad. Our Shadow Magic buffs here are paused. Now I'm going to drop my heavy attack. Now again, I will purposely drop my level 2 in her block, because we can see that she's getting quite few of these buffs added. And now I'm dropping my second level 2 into her block. And I have 8 Furies pretty much immediately with this setup already. And it's not too bad. It's not too bad. And now let's go for it again. Now we just obviously want to build up to more level 2s quicker, whilst trying to keep up as many buffs as possible on Electra at all times, making sure that our Furies do not expire. Drop my level 2 here without a worry. And all of a sudden, I bet you guys didn't even notice, but she's already at 50% health. 47, 46, 45. It's just so satisfying to look that health bar just drain away. And again, consider she has 1.5 million health. And now we're going to drop a level 2 in her block yet again. We might be punished for it, but we're just trying to have a bit of fun. But we have over 60, over 70 damaging debuffs on her. We just don't need to do anything. We just do not need to do anything. And those fight stats are absolutely ridiculous. So the finishing blows, we can see how much damage was dealt by shock, bleed, and poison. And basic attacks, in the meantime, only dealt 20,000. As the rest of it, over 300,000 came from the shocks, the bleed, the poison. And that was a labyrinth fight in 2 minutes. So, despite initially being somewhat skeptical with that limit of his 3 Shadow Magic buffs, I do think that it is a very significant improvement to Gorr. And I'm saying that as somebody who knows the champion quite well, who used the champion as is. This new buff version is quite bonkers. And I can also genuinely understand why there is that max limit of the Shadow Magic buffs now. Because with the increased duration, you could just keep stacking them up to a very ridiculous amount. To a point where, yeah, your level 3s would just become stupid in longer fights. Because, trust me, these fights took 2 minutes or something like that. But if you could keep stacking those up, and there would be no damage cap, this fight would be well shorter than that. Anyways, let me know what you guys think of the buffed Gorr. I personally quite like him. And I'll catch you guys later. See ya. Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. So we have all the information about the